All right. Mike and Gaye Cox, the founders/directors of Stormhaven Youth Ranch. Thank you guys so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I know little to nothing about horses and ranches and youth. So you guys have thrown this all together into one ministry, and my girlfriend has told me about the impact that you have made on so many people, but I just want to give you guys the opportunity to introduce yourselves and to enlighten everyone that hears this just what it is exactly that you do with your horse ranch and how you impact your community. So what is it exactly? What is Stormhaven Youth Ranch exactly?
Well, it's a ministry primarily to reach people for Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And we're just using horses to do so. It's very simple.
Nice.
And it's in our backyard. The Lord laid this on our heart to just take what we have and share it. And so we're inviting children, families out that have been traumatized and pairing them with horses that have been traumatized and rehabbed. And the kids and the families are seeing themselves in these horses, and their experiences are very similar to what the horses have been through. So they relate to that, and then they begin a relationship with a horse if they choose, and they can stay as many years as they want. So that's basically it.
Is there kind of a science or a method to how you have these individuals interact with horses and kind of what's supposed to be brought out of it? I know there's this trend on horse therapy, right? But even then, that's a subject that I know little to nothing about. So what is the, I guess, methodology that you guys have with building these relationships with people and horses?
Well, we don't use the word therapy, number one.
Oh, okay.
It's not really therapy.
Okay.
And I don't even know what that means. But what we're doing is building relationship.
Yeah.
Because once these children understand a relationship with a horse and what it requires to have one, then that follows over and carries over into a relationship with people. And that's usually where all the problems are in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately a relationship with Jesus Christ. So that is all incorporates it. We really don't have a program, so to speak, but this is just an introduction to all three of those at one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Laura also said that you guys work with people in the prison system. Am I right?
Yeah.
What is your involvement with them, and how do they interact with your ranch?
Well, that is definitely one of our favorite parts. We love these guys so much. They're family. They're coming out of halfway houses, and the state gave them permission to come out to the ranch and participate in just projects and blessing us and helping us with building things and cleaning and fixing things. And it's been so much more than that. They get to work power tools and tractors and remember their skills from long ago that they've had to lay aside. Some have had totally sacrificed to go to prison. So this is a time where they can come out and just be free again for a while and be out in the country, be out in the cold if they need to be in the heat, and experience what life can be like, what the possibility is. One of the parts of our ministry is to give hope, and I think they are given hope by coming out and seeing what freedom tastes like.
Wow.
And that in turn blesses us so many ways. I mean, we're getting projects done, things that we can't physically do as a couple. We're in our 60s, and it's just some things you just don't do anymore. So they have just been huge, and this is finishing up the second year with them, and I hope to have many more.
Wow.
How, I've been on the ranch, I think, before the prison ministry started and after, and every time I come back on the ranch, it's different or something new is there, and I'm like, okay, what are these guys doing? So what would you say, just guess, a percentage of the ranch that they built or have renewed?
Mike, can you help answer that one?
Well, they've built a lean-to along the whole side of one barn. They've built another lean-to on the other side for a horse shelter, and they built us a cottage to have programs in for the children, and they just finished another horse shelter yesterday.
So I would say they're at least half of what we were originally.
Cool. Yeah.
We had a broken down old tobacco barn. It's being renovated completely.
Yep.
Fencing, you name it.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
That's really cool. How it's like the ranch is being built up by people who have been broken down.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
We like to see it as these guys are really the kids, all grown up. And, you know, they have already made the mistakes and they regret what they did. And so one of the things that they say is that, man, I wish I'd had something like this.
Wow.
Somewhere to go that I didn't have to make those choices. I didn't know, you know.
I think when the guys started coming out, and a lot of the kids that come out too, you see it in their eyes. A lot of times they kind of look like some of the animals at the zoo that are just pacing back and forth, and like the lion, a lot of times you just see him pacing back and forth, and you can tell that he has no idea what it really means to be a lion in the jungle and in charge and all that stuff. And a lot of these guys and a lot of the kids that show up, they look like that. And also a lot of the horses that we have gotten over the years, they've come and they've been so beaten down and broken that they have forgotten what it means to be a horse. And a lot of the children that have come, you know, their life is get up, go to school, come home, play video games till 9 o'clock and go to bed. You know, so they have really no sense of what's real and what's not real to say.
Yeah. And
they stand next to a 1,200-pound horse, and it's like all of a sudden this is real. You know, this horse could bite me, it could step on me, you know, and all of a sudden it awakens something in their heart that has been either pushed down or deadened. And the same with these guys. I mean, when we first started doing it, you know, they all get off the bus and they slowly make their way down. But last couple of weeks ago, they were coming to finish a project for a certain date, and they got off the bus, and I looked up and they were running down to the barn.
Oh,
you know,
my.
and it was just like, wow, something's transformed here.
Yeah.
You know?
I think just you've given them purpose again, and they've realized, like, hey, I'm actually good at doing something. I'm not just all bad. And so you've given them a reason to, like, come alive again. And just through building this, I feel like they've really gotten a taste of their identity again. And they're like, oh, now I'm really motivated to get up every day and really motivated to do these things because I can do these things. So, yeah, the times I've been on your ranch, it's been a platform of awakening for people and just remembering who they are, and, like, for parents too, because it's not just the kids, it's the parents too. And, like, what you do is you have the kids come and then you do sessions with them and the parents just rest. But there are so many times that parents have held you up after a session because they want to tell you, like, what God revealed to them or what they're learning through their child. So can you think of anything? You don't have to say names or specifics, but is that something that happens a lot?
Oh, yeah, it's much more than rest. I see them connecting with other moms that are in the same boat, and they don't know each other. And so they're like, oh, you too? And they start connecting and saying, yeah, I have this problem. And it's just beautiful to watch the relationships start coming out of that. And not only that, but some of them have kept in touch with each other, so they start friendships. Yeah. And being able to just kind of just let it out. I mean, they all have come from counselors. Almost every single person that attends the ranch is been referred to by some doctor or therapeutic place or whatever. And they've done a lot of talking and telling their story. but not to one another.
Mm-hmm.
So they're telling each other this, and they're telling me this, and I've been through stuff too. So we're all empathizing with one another, and when you have that connection that, hey, I'm there too, and that's what the kids see in the horses. You've got that camaraderie there, and you feel free to trust. You feel free to let go. You feel free and more open to find that healing.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. That's like a picture of what the kingdom of God really should look like, is a place where grace is at the center and not, we have to have everything together. My kids are perfect. How are yours? Oh, it's a place where we can really be free together, and definitely a beautiful thing.
Sometimes that I've been there, I've seen mothers just at the end of their rope, to the point where they're just so grateful that you just take their kid for an hour, because they just need help.
Yeah.
And some of those situations with foster children, they get into it, and it's like, or foster children or adoptive children, it's like, this isn't what I expected, I had no idea it was going to be like this. And just to know that you're there and you're helping them to deal with it, it just opens up the floodgate of tears a lot of times.
Yeah. Would you say a lot of parents, when they come, they feel isolated?
Oh, yeah. They feel like they're the only ones going through it. Yeah, that's a very common thing.
So, just for basic questions, how many horses do you guys have, and how many people would you say filter through your ranch in like a year? Would you be able to know that, or maybe like?
Oh yeah, I can guess at that. I'm sure if I looked up my paperwork, I could tell you exactly, but I don't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
But as far as horses go, we've had, since we started 14 years ago, it's been 50 horses that have come through, and now we are down to, not that they all stayed at once, but they've been rehomed. We're down to 18. I would say that because we have a little pony going to a new home soon.
Which one?
Starbuck. Yeah.
Oh.
And
okay, gotta go say goodbye.
But that's a good thing, because he's going to bless a little girl and her family that's going to start a ranch one day.
Oh.
Yeah. So Amanda.
Okay.
So it's going to be just really, that's a good number for us. It works for the amount of kids that we see throughout the year, and which is basically 9 months out of the year. So over that period, there's all kinds of different, quote, programs that go on. We have the summer program for the children, and then a fall program for children, and then all the rest of that time's either training or working with horses, or and doing that rehab for the new ones, or we mentor girls, teenage girls, from March through November. So it's a very active place. And it incorporates a lot of field trips, a lot of groups that would just want to come serve and bring their families to serve. So that's a lot of moms and their children showing up to help out. So there's quite a crew. I'd say we average at least 100 children a year in that respect, and in all those different things. And that would be all different children.
You say a lot of these horses experience trauma as well.
Yes.
How do you come across these horses, and how do they become a part of your ranch?
Same thing, same way everything happens. That's how we get children, we get horses, we get our funds, is by the phone call or something in the mail. The phone call really is where the horses come from.
So this whole process coming into making this ranch happen is very spirit-led, would you say?
Oh, yes.
Do you guys know who George Mueller is?
Mm-hmm.
How, do you guys resonate with his life at all? I know he started a lot of orphanages and everything, but his autobiography talks about how spirit-led him and his wife were with making all these things happen. I guess, to put it in a more specific question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how often would you say that you kind of allow the Spirit to make that answer for whatever questions or obstacles you have next.
Well, hopefully 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to say that. I hope we're doing that because that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's our flesh, and we sure don't want that to get in the way.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of prayer, a lot of surrender and waiting. We can't do this on our own at all. And matter of fact, this wasn't our idea to begin with. So, so if we've been called to this, the Spirit's going to do it for us. We believe that with all our hearts. So,
I think there's been several opportunities over the years to grow and to get more property and to get more horses and more staff and all that stuff. But when we've opened those up to the Lord in prayer, and most of the time, well, all the times, really, they seem to be more of the enemy trying to get us off course, trying to kill your heart, try to discourage you, trying to give you more than you can actually handle. So God has a specific purpose for Stormhaven, and specific purpose is, number one, is to reach the hurting children and rescue hurting horses. And we've been doing that primarily, but the other things that have come about through that ministry are just like add-ons, for the prison part and the prisoner guy part, and the other groups that get to come out are just like bonuses to that. So trying to just stay true to the mission is probably the biggest battle that we have, because everybody comes along and well-meaning, most of them in good Christian advice and stuff, but sometimes it's really getting you off course. From where you
and yet we need to always be open to the Spirit's leading, and He might go suddenly to the left, and so sometimes it's hard to discern that. It takes time. And for instance, we had no idea that one of the parts of our call would be to start other ranches. And all of a sudden, I've got all these volunteers that have been with me for years saying, "See ya, I'm going to do my own," and then "See ya, I'm going to do my own," and it just kept happening, and I kept losing everybody. So my flesh panics and is like, "Well, but you are going to take over this for me one day. Can't do this forever." And then the Spirit says, "Calm down. We're multiplying." And that's what's happening. They're growing and blossoming all over the country. It's so incredible.
So how did Stormhaven come about then? If it wasn't originally your idea, how did this vision occur?
Wow. Really through a podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. A podcast.
How funny.
Yeah, how ironic is that?
Wow.
Kim Meter, our dear friend from Oregon, and her husband Troy started the first of these ranches, because we are a family of ranches. There's over 200 around overseas also. And she was doing a podcast telling her story on the podcast. And
you said a podcast was a stupid idea.
I did.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I never said that to whoever is listening.
So, yeah, they work. And people hear them, and they touch hearts.
Wow.
And they touched ours. That one, it was like finally figuring out what your identity is in a moment.
Yes.
Did you ever work with horses before that?
Work with? Not really. I didn't know anything about training or rehabbing them maybe rehabbing.
Yeah.
Because when I was 10, I needed rescuing myself.
Wow.
And interestingly, I don't know how it came about, but my parents rescued a little filly, little female horse that was very ill and very messed up and shutting down like I was. And I think it was a last resort for them, try an animal kind of thing to get me out of my hole, because I had shut down completely, and I'd been through therapy. So when a child just does nothing but cry all the time, you don't know what to do with that. How do you fix that? So this horse came into our life, and she needed a lot of love and care. She had been beaten and mistreated and with skin and bones, and my job was to help her through that. And I don't know if they even realized what was happening themselves, but as I rescued her, she rescued me and totally introduced me to God's unconditional love. So that was a very powerful moment in my life, because not only did it plant the seeds for what has blossomed out of that now, but it also sparked a compassionate heart in me that wanted to rescue throughout my life, because we didn't start this until we were in our 50s, turning 50. And so all those years beforehand, God was developing us to be able to start this ministry.
Wow. How did you end up coming along in the picture for helping this vision come about?
Gaye and I have been together since we were 15 or 16.
Seriously?
Yeah, they were babies.
We grew up together, and I knew her story. I knew her past. I knew her horse.
Wow.
Okay. And I was coming home and listening to Focus on the Family one day, and on Focus on the Family was Kill Meter, and she was telling her story of her testimony and how she had found Jesus on the back of a horse, and she had started this ministry with one horse and one kid, and one abused horse and one abused kid, and that just intrigued me greatly. And when I got home, I said something to Gaye. I said, "This is like designed for you," because I knew her past, I knew what she had been through, and she had already had started backyard clubs for girls and things, just
that's so cute.
on
I
her
didn't know
own.
that.
I needed girls in my life.
So I'm like, this is like, you just really need to check this out. And so I think she listened to a later broadcast on the radio, and from that, of course, at first you're like, this is never going to happen, right? This is just a dream that, it's not going to happen. So we kind of just forgot about it for a couple of months, and then we were listening. We got these devotions in the mail, and in the center of the devotion was a story about Crystal Peaks Youth Ranch.
Wow.
And it was a more in-depth story, and but it was like God was just shining the spotlight on this and offering it to us to join Him in this type of ministry. So I sent Gaye out to Oregon to a training that they have every year.
Yeah.
And she came back, and she was totally slammed.
Yep.
I cried for 5 straight days.
Oh, my goodness.
So from that point, we started seeking counsel from other believers that we really valued their opinions, and we just kept getting green lights from everyone. And so we decided to take the next step, and we got a call that there were 2 horses that were in a stall. They'd been in there for 6 months, and the owner had died, and someone who was coming out from Louisville every day to feed them, and the manure was 3 feet deep in one side of the stall, and it was just, they needed to get out of there.
Yeah.
Well, we had a barn. We didn't have any stable, what else?
Fences.
Fences, yeah. We didn't
What
have
are
any
those
fences.
called again? Oh, yeah.
And so we had to hurry up and build some fences to
Wow.
be able to take these first 2 horses. We didn't have a horse trailer. That's our how crazy this whole thing was.
That's how you know it was the Lord.
Yeah. So a lot to say. We didn't have a tractor. We didn't have anything, and somebody donated a tractor, and somebody else, a guy from Shuck Fence, came over and helped me, show me how to build a fence, and then some friends came over to help me do that, and things just started showing up. And a couple of weeks went by, and we had 2 paddocks, and another guy came with his horse trailer and truck and helped us get them home.
Things just literally started dropping out of the sky.
Yeah.
The provision was immediate, and checks started coming once we got our 501c3. Checks started coming in the mailbox, and it's been that same way ever since.
And the funny thing is, to really encourage us, there was right off the bat, the guy that helped us get the horses home, he heard our story and what we were thinking of doing, and you don't know what people think half the time, when you tell them that, but he showed up a couple of days later with this horse that was starving, and he's like, I was driving down the road and I saw this horse that is about to die. It's skin and bones, and he said, I walked up to the front door of the house and told him I'd give him $100 for that horse, and they said okay.
Wow.
So he got him, and he brought him over to us, and we put him in one of the pens, and unbeknownst to us, the very next day, this girl came out struggling with anorexia.
Yeah.
And Gaye sent her over there to start brushing this horse, and the hair is just flying off of the horse, because of the starving, and so it was started getting stuck in her lips, and because it was breezy day, it was getting stuck in her mouth, and so she started spitting hair out, as she's brushing this horse, and I felt like I needed to go over there and tell her what was going on with this animal, and so I did, and I said, well, it's just this horse has been starved, and it's just protecting the internal organs. That's just what the body does, and the external kind of is the first to suffer, and the hair starts falling out. That's just a sign of, dying. And the mom of the girl is standing there, and she says, oh, honey, do you remember when your hair started falling out? And I just backed away, and I just felt like the Spirit was saying, I've got this, And I looked over there, and this girl was she's brushing this horse still in the same spot for like 10 minutes. And what she was looking at was a mirror of herself. And she will tell you today that is the moment that she decided to change.
I just got chills.
And she continued with us, just to carry that story further. She continued through the years with us, as many years, as a volunteer. A lot of times the kids that have come out of this summer session thing that we have turn into volunteers eventually. And she did that. And they pour back into the children that are hurting, just like they did. And she had found a lot of victory. We baptized her in her water trough, and just really vibrant, turned into a very vibrant teen. And she pulled out for a while and did life, and then came back later. And she got married, met a great guy, and got married. And they were expecting their first baby, and she shared with us that she almost went right back into that hopeless place, into that despondency where God doesn't care, God doesn't, I need to die, it's not worth it. But she didn't go there because she knew that God was with her, and she had a relationship with him. So she was able to fight through that. And she ended up losing that baby, and that's where her hopelessness really plummeted. And then today, she has a beautiful little girl that God blessed her with. And she's just as happy as can be, and she's just enjoying life, and that vibrancy and that incredible smile is contagious to everybody she meets. And so that's an amazing victory of how you can be so hopeless and have an NG tube in your nose and just want to die when you're 11 years old, and when you're 22, you're just ready to conquer the world.
Yeah.
You guys seem like you've seen so much fruit and transformation in this time. But I want to ask, has there been any milestone moments for you guys individually or as a couple in just your own spiritual life, and how God's transformed you guys through this ministry?
Wow. Been a lot. Milestones, I think, we will tell that story particularly over and over, because it is a milestone for us.
Yeah.
Because it also involved a horse during the years that she connected with. That was personally a milestone for me. I mean, we, even as ranch directors, need hope and encouragement too. We have our struggles also. And when I was a little girl, I used to blow up birthday candles and hope for this Gray Arabian was my dream horse. And years went by, and I had the rescue of, when I was 10, of the horse I just mentioned earlier. And she ended up being with me for years and years. But then life happened, and we moved away, and made a bunch of mistakes. Almost ended our marriage. Almost walked away from 5 little boys. But God brought us back again, and He turned everything around, and He restored and remade our hearts. And so we know personally what it is to lose hope and to be restored once again, and revived and rehabbed. But so in those years of discovering how to start this ranch and actually taking that first step, those 2 horses that Mike mentioned, one of them included a horse. Well, the 2 horses were in a barn. So when we went to responded to the call and go see these horses for the first time, one of them poked their head out of the little door on the side of the barn, and it was a Gray Arabian mare. So needless to say, I went to my knees in gratitude. But I knew in that moment also she wasn't for me, that God was speaking to me in that moment that this is for them. This is for all those other little girl gays out in the world that didn't have a horse to rescue them. Now they do. And I'm enabling you and gifting you with your dream horse so that you can share this little horse with all those little girls that hurt too. And Madeline, the girl we were just talking about that was anorexic, paired with her. And their anger, Gracie, the horse, was a very angry mare, wanted to kill everybody, been abused. And Madeline was very angry too. And the 2 of them connected and began that partnership that we were hoping would happen. So she's kind of like a poster child, and both of these are poster children, poster horse for us, because that was really encapsulating our hope as to what this ranch could do for people. And God did it all. And this little new baby girl that Madeline has now is actually ridden Gracie.
Wow.
So it's full circle, and that's the beauty of being allowed to see a peak of the victory in that respect.
And now Gracie is a peaceful, vibrant, loves children. She really takes care of the kids that you put on her back.
Very much so. She's very sensitive. Yeah, very, very good. And it's a beautiful story.
Do you remember that camp that we had, a day camp, and it was like a lot of kids? They came from like some daycare in Shelbyville, or like what, I don't remember what program it was, but it was so funny because there was like hundreds, just around 100 kids. We were like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, we got to get everything ready. And we had Gracie in the arena, so that's pretty much the first thing that everyone's going to see when they come and gather. And so before you gave announcements to let everyone know how the day was going to go, Gracie was in the arena and was like neighing so loud and loping back and forth on the fences, just welcoming everyone to the ranch, and just was being so loud, and all these kids were like, whoa, this day is gonna be awesome, because she was just like, well, really, she didn't like being alone in the arena, but everyone, she just brought so much power. And, like, it was such a beautiful symbol of, like, the Lord is coming back on a white horse. And just the strength that she embodied just gave everyone that message, like, this is going to be a really impactful day. And, like, she's such an agent of God's grace now. So it's so cool.
And very safe. Extremely safe. She's probably one of the safest horses we have.
It's incredible.
Yes,
like, where she
it's a
came
miracle.
from. So, and even through telling the stories of the horses, kids will be like, oh, yeah, that's because a lot of them don't know how to voice how they feel.
Right.
And so when you can tell them, like, in a second-hand way how this horse feels and what this horse has gone through, it actually helps the kids walk in deeper healing, because then they're like, oh, yeah, that's how I feel. Or, oh, I didn't know that was wrong of those people to do that to me. Or I didn't know that that was a problem. And it's like the Lord is giving them justice through sharing these stories with the horses, because he's saying, listen, like, this wasn't okay that this horse had to go through this, but now look where this horse is and how much love and attention and care is being poured over this horse. And that's what I want for you. And these kids really receive that. And, like, I'm thinking of, do you know who I'm thinking of?
No.
Jackson.
Oh,
my favorite little one. I probably shouldn't say favorite, but his story was incredible. And I even have my own story with Nestle, which I can share at any point.
Go for it.
If you want to, absolutely.
Okay. So she was a broodmare. Would you say she was a broodmare? Because she's not anymore.
Thoroughbred broodmare.
So this horse named Nestle, who I would say is Miss Gaye's horse, she was a broodmare at a thoroughbred farm, and she's a beautiful bay, like dark bay, I would say. So she has like a darker mane and a dark chocolate brown coat, and she is so sweet and just, she really is motherly. Like, she's had 9 babies in her life, right?
Right.
Holy
9 short years.
Yeah.
So
is
that a normal thing, or?
I really don't know for sure, but it was, I think that's pretty hard.
I mean, thoroughbreds, like, the racing industry is so money driven that they want to, like, produce.
Sure.
So they just want to get these horses, like, they want these babies to come through so they can, like, produce a crop of money, really. And so she really was only used for breeding. And so she spent a lot of her time just, like, nursing babies, one after the other, and staying in stalls.
Oh.
And I would say, so bad habits of horses are called vices, or stable vices. And Nestle has a stable vice of cribbing or wind sucking. And so what she does, this is going to be kind of hard to describe over a podcast, but what she does is she'll bite on anything mostly wooden. So it can be the fence, or it can be her stable, or that's pretty much it, because that's what she's around most of the time. So she'll grab a hold of it with her top teeth, and then she'll suck in air as she's biting on it. So it's like she's burping. Like, have you ever tried to burp, but you suck in the air?
Yes.
So that's what she does.
Don't ask me why I've done that.
And as she
But
does,
yes.
that releases endorphins into her system. So it's actually a mild high for her.
Yeah.
Oh, she's getting herself high.
It's an
Yeah.
addiction.
Yeah.
Yes, she has a very hard time not doing it.
Yeah, like she can't not do it.
She'd rather do that than eat.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
many times that's one of her problems. She doesn't eat enough because of it.
Yeah. And so this is a very ironic picture, because having to do with, like, generational sin, but a lot of horses develop that out of boredom, but then these little babies, they see their mom doing it because she's just in the stall all day with them. And so then they start to do it because they're like, oh, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'll do it. And some babies don't pick it up, but some babies do. And, like, I think a lot of stable hands, they try to prevent the babies from doing it. But it just goes to show, like, if you have a parent who's a drug addict or an alcoholic, you have to really be careful to not pick that up. And so my story is I grew up with my mom in a single mother household, and she struggled with alcoholism ever since I can remember. So I think, like, it was not as bad in my early years. So when I was, like, 0 to, like, 5 or 6, it wasn't that bad. But then again, I don't remember. But it had to have been under somewhat control because I was so little. So I needed that, like, attention. But then again, I don't know. Because I've seen, like, home videos of her. Like, I'm playing in the living room, and then she's in the background, like, holding a beer. So I don't really know. But that actually was really hard because I was an only child. And so I learned a lot of just lies that I agreed with the enemy on, like a lot of that you were saying about Madeline, like God doesn't care, and like I'm alone and no one really loves me, and a lot of lies about my mom, because I was one of those kids that needed the ranch when I was younger, and I didn't have that. I had my dog, which was my saving grace. Like yours was your horse, mine was my dog. But I had a really hard time understanding the difference between the disease and who my mom was. And those weren't separate to me and I don't blame myself because I was a little kid. So how else can I comprehend something like that? So really, when I saw her when she was sober, I was like, oh, it's my mom. Like, she's come out of hiding. Okay, talk to me. Let's do things. Let's be in a relationship, and let's do mother-daughter things and just live life. And when she was drunk, I just saw her as a completely different creature. It was black and white to me. Like, I was just like, get away from me. I don't love you. I hate you. You don't love me. You don't care. But then when she was sober, it was the opposite, because I wanted her to see, don't you understand that this is hurting me? This doesn't make sense to me. I need you to be here. But all you can do is just focus on your addiction, and like all you're doing is choosing this bottle over me. And so I didn't understand how to channel my anger, and I also didn't know what I could and couldn't control. And so everything was chaos in my life before, in my mind and in my life. Just everything was just so up and down, because when you live with an alcoholic, nothing is predictable, absolutely nothing. And so what you learn to expect is the unexpected. And so that develops a lot of fear. But I'd say the hardest thing that I developed in my relationship with my mom is this like lie that I can control more than I think I can. So in my relationships with people, what Nestle has shown me is how much I try to control in other people. And so like you said, Miss Gaye, that's what I call her, is Miss Gaye. Like you said, these kids learn the most important thing, and that's their relationships with people. And they learn that through horses, because the most important things in our lives are relationships with people and relationship with God. And a lot of times horses, like, they just help us kind of see past our pride and see into ourselves. And so I carry a lot of, like, my vices, my stable vices, quote unquote, are just my control. And so Nestle one day was in her stall, and I didn't come as a broken kid to the ranch, but I came as a broken volunteer. So I came to the ranch I'm doing the like air quotes, help people. But really the ranch was just helping me. And Jesus was like, well, yes, like you've grown to a point, but I still want to pour into you. And so, anyways, I was doing something ranch related, like cleaning stalls or like going to water the horses, and I was passing Nestle, and she was doing that wind sucking thing, and she always does it, and that's like her addiction. And so me not having an idea yet of what it means to let things go and just let, even if it's bad for her, I can't make her stop doing it. So even though it was bad for my mom to drink, I cannot make her stop doing it. So I saw her, and I'd always be like, Nestle, stop, and like move her nose or like swat at her nose so she wouldn't like put her mouth on it. But as soon as I turn around, what is she going to do? She's going to do it again, because she's not learning what I'm trying to tell her, because like just where she's at in life, that's not going to compute. And so the way that I learned my bad habit of control was the way that Miss Gaye and Mr. Mike handled Nestle. And when you both would walk past her, you just totally almost disregarded the fact that she did it. And that just blew me away, because I was like, yeah, hello, your horse has a problem. Why aren't you fixing it? And that was my own unrest and like just lack of peace in myself. But you both had peace, because you understood, okay, how can I best love Nestle right now? Oh, okay, that's not try to control everything that she does. It's to just love her where she's at and accept things that probably won't change. And you guys understood where that line was drawn. Like, okay, we can try our best to like help her with this stable vice, but we know that we are probably not going to ever get rid of it. And so what you did, what I now learned, because I also listened to an Al-Anon podcast, which is for kids that have people that have family members or close friends that are alcoholics or drug addicts, is you loved Nestle with, it's called detachment. So you detached yourself with love. So you don't let what she struggles with affect you in an unhealthy way. Like, you see what she struggles with and you love her without getting all of your emotions tied up into that. So like an example is you guys gave Nestle a collar that kind of helps her throat and like her neck tendons not be like overstretched and overpulled, because she's biting the edge of the fence and then like pulling her neck. And so after a while that can cause damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it can.
So you guys put a collar on her, knowing that it's not going to stop it, but it will at least help her. And so in people terms, that's like, say an alcoholic so there's a marriage, say like the husband is an alcoholic and the wife isn't, and every night he gets drunk and falls out of bed. And what an unhealthy thing would be the wife every single time picking her husband up and putting him back in bed, because that puts so much on her, and it's not going to ever stop. So it's like she's kind of straining herself so that she can try to just uphold her husband. But what detaching herself with love would be, every time he falls out of bed, just put a blanket over him and like leave him there, but put a blanket there, because she still loves him, but like she's going to stay in the bed and keep sleeping, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's what I'd say what happened with Nestle. But my biggest thing was I couldn't believe that you didn't try to fix it. And then that showed me something, and I really reflected on that, and I felt like the Lord was like, they're not wrong. You're the one that's wrong. Like, you can't control your mom. You can't make her stop drinking. And so you might as well just rest and be at peace and understand, like, you can love her still, but loving her doesn't mean changing her. And loving her doesn't mean trying to make everything in your life fit together and be perfect so that you can feel better and move on. Because, so that's how I saw myself in Nestle. And I really there was a retreat at your ranch just a few months ago. Mm-hmm. And she was there. And one of the nights I was just really impacted by the message and the worship, and the Spirit was like really moving in my heart, and Nestle was in her stall, like the only horse in her stall. And I still, this has been an ongoing struggle in my life with my mom, and I still struggle with it so much. But I walked over to Nestle's stall, And I just like cried and just pet her and let her do that thing. And I just said, I actually surprised myself with what I said, because I didn't know that compassion was actually in my heart, but I kind of pretended that Nestle was my mom. And instead of saying like, I forgive you, it's okay, I just said, it's okay. I know you're scared and I know you don't know how to stop, but I love you and it's going to be okay. And that allowed me to release so much, and it helped me understand like, oh, like aside from Drew is passing this tissue box around the whole table. But instead of saying like, you know, I forgive you and being the bigger person or whatever, I actually realized, because I was able to release something onto Nestle, I realized I actually do really care about my mom and love her. Underneath all the anger and the hurt, I actually really do want my mom to be okay, not just myself. And that was huge for me, because I can be so critical of myself and just be like, gosh, like, why do you still get so angry? Why can't you let go? Why can't you just let her be? But really, aside from all the criticism, I really do love my mom, and I didn't really know the extent of that until I said to Nestle, like, it's gonna be okay. And Nestle was just like, I don't know what's going on, I'm just standing here. But like, she was there, and the Lord used her, and that's what happens to a lot of the volunteers and a lot of the kids, is like, God knows that we need something physical and tangible to release our burdens. And like, yes, our hope alone is in Christ, but he knows, like in the garden, he gave Adam Eve. And I think like, he knows that we just need to touch things, and we need to have physical things to express our emotion to, and also just understand. Like, Madeline understood for the first time when she was petting that horse that, oh, this was what was happening to me. And then decided, okay, I want to heal. I really do want to heal now. So that's my long drawn out story.
Well, sweetheart, thank you, because I think you just painted a beautiful picture of Jesus. That's what he does for us. Everything you described is how he loves us. And that's what he hopes for us.
Absolutely. I think it's pretty evident to see the fruits of y'all's ministry with these different stories and encounters. And I think outside looking in, knowing nothing about horses, I'm surprised to see how relatable these creatures are for when people come with their particular thorns, and they're able to meet this animal that is going through something similar, and it helps them resonate with the rest of creation, you know?
Yeah.
That's so special. I want to ask though, you guys have gotten to this point and you've seen so much fruit and transformation, but I know that it hasn't come easy, and it's been a lot of sacrifice and a lot of, painstaking nights, sweat, blood, and tears.
Literally.
Seriously. I want to ask, what has been some of the more challenging moments for you guys, or what has been the heaviest things that God has had to lead you through with just getting to this point?
Well, I think personally for me, I'm a grandma. I'm a mom of 6 boys.
Well, congratulations.
And I have 11 grandkids.
Oh.
So that's one of the desires in my heart. I always wanted to be a grandma.
Yeah.
And I had 2 fabulous ones that loved me unconditionally during my hard times in childhood. So it's been hard for me my kids are all over the country, to not be able to spend that time with my family as I wanted to. So that has been a loss in my heart, a hole in my heart, that I think God in his incredible mercy and grace has found a way to quench that pain and to fill that hole with all these children that surround me day to day.
Yeah.
And these families and these horses and, all that goes on at the ranch. So that has been, even though it's a loss for me and I still struggle to be able to get away and spend time with them, it's okay. They understand what we're doing, and they understand that this is a season, and that they are encouraging us to continue, and God has taken care of it in so many ways.
Wow.
And provided in so many ways.
Do you have anything to add on to that?
I would say probably the loss of horses.
Yeah.
We've had several horses. It seems like the enemy, like I was telling you earlier, he tries to get you distracted. He tries to get you off course. He also tries to discourage you. And we've had several horses that were like our best horse. Mm-hmm. Once we had a horse named CC he was from Oklahoma. He was a registered quarter horse. He was like perfect in every way. And he collapsed one day, and we had to take him to the hospital, and he had one of his lungs was cancerous. And so we had to put him down. And then not long after that, our little mascot, Minnie, right, that we used to haul around in the back of the truck to Vacation Bible School and everything, and he got some kind of thing, and we had to put him down. It's just, there's been so many that we've lost.
Yeah.
It's just, you wonder, how do you just keep going?
Well, something that really strikes me is that it wasn't just our loss, it was the children's loss. And death is part of life. And I think in a weird way, we don't understand as people, God brought beauty from the ashes of the death of these horses and these kids' lives and our own, because we can look back and we can see those losses and how they affected the children that really truly loved these horses and had relationships with them, in watching them blossom anyway, and God bring them out of that, even though there was a hard season for them to grieve through. All of us, it's very difficult to let go of an animal, as everybody knows, especially one you poured your heart into and spent many, many tearful nights with. So we've seen that. We've seen these kids rise above that and be able to go on with life and learn from it.
Yeah.
And those are hard lessons.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I think, for one, this has been truly enlightening. And I just, coming from not knowing anything about this, I feel truly touched by what you guys are doing, and it just shows the significance to me of how people can find hope again in these creatures, and what you guys are doing with this ranch, and how many lives y'all have touched. I want to give the audience a chance to know how to find you and how to support you if they wish, or how to be a part of what you're doing. Where can people go to get a hold of you?
Well, we're on the web. We have a website. It's Stormhaven, yr.org. And we are also on Facebook. That's probably the best place to see pictures that are current and to keep up with what's going on and to laugh with us as our goofy
Chicken yoga.
Chicken yoga, yeah. We have fun. And
Nice.
So that is, I really encourage you to go to Facebook. That's been a wonderful way to communicate, and we're blessed with that.
Cool. That's awesome. Laura, do you have anything that you want to say or close off with?
Well, I had like a lot of questions written out, but I think that we pretty much got it all. But I guess I just want to share with the audience. I found Stormhaven Youth Ranch in 2017. I don't know. So 2017, and I volunteered, and I fell in love with Mr. Mike and Miss Gaye. That's what everyone calls them on the ranch. At first, I just called them Gaye and Mike, and then I realized everyone calls them Mr. Mike and Miss Gaye. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just jump on that bandwagon. But they've become like my parents and have walked me through so many things. And so if you're really looking for discipleship, but also just open, loving arms, this is a very beautiful place to go. And I've just been greatly impacted by their lives and their stories and their love. And when I think about who they are in my life, I cannot help but think of God's faithfulness. And it's Him that led me to this ranch. And it's a beautiful place. Like, I've learned so much about training horses with Pirelli horsemanship. It's beautiful. It's a natural horsemanship training method. And I've also I have been accepted at this ranch through a lot of just different stages in my life. Like, when I first came to do volunteer training, I was like in a really just unstable, anxious place because I was like a junior, senior in college. And they've seen me come out of that and then go into new things and come out of that and through YWAM. And I would say that, like, I've just been really blessed to be a volunteer on the ranch. But I've been accepted as a daughter, and a lot of girls have, and guys too, like young men. And so you both really exemplify who Jesus is and how He pours Himself out. And I think of that word kenosis, that Greek word that's to empty oneself. And Jesus always emptied Himself out, like, completely, every day, every moment. And that's what you both do. And there are so many people that can say they've made a significant decision in their life with your help. And also just, I'm sure that there have been marriages that have come out of guidance from you both. And you laugh because it's probably true. Just like, and I know, like, I really, like, I'm dating you, Drew, but like, I have felt a lot of peace in dating you because of them. Because, like,
Thanks.
just because,
Sure.
just because, like, I know that you would both tell me the truth, and I really look to you for guidance and wisdom. And a lot of major decisions I've made in my life have been because, like, in the back of my head, I know that I have a support system, and, like, I know the ways that you would release me but also guide me. And so, yeah, guess what I'm trying to say is come to Stormhaven Youth Ranch if you are an orphan and need parents. Just kidding.
Do you guys have anything else that you want the audience to know about yourselves individually or Stormhaven Youth Ranch before we go?
Not that I can think of. I think you covered
Pretty
with
much
your
covered all the
questions really,
bases.
really well. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Mike and Gaye Cox with Stormhaven Youth Ranch. I learned a lot today. I know you guys will. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Right.